Welcome to Moving People Forward with Lara Elfstrand. This program is a series of conversations on commonly seen challenges in everyday people's lives. We hope you'll be inspired by the stories you hear today. Perhaps you know of someone who would also benefit. Be sure to share the program link with a friend. Now, here's Mark.
And with me today on Moving People Forward is Lara Elfstrand, founder and principal of Little Elf Family Services. Lara's company offers a number of different resources to help build a strong, resilient family that stands the test of time. And let me just say right up front, it's very difficult to find a guest with the same last name as mine. So Lara, welcome. It's good to have you with us today.
Thanks, Mr. Dad. It's good to be here too.
Family resilient coach. That's one of the terms you use to describe yourself. Okay, so how do you build resilience for families?
Yeah, so we know that learning happens best when we're calm, and we know that I feel like my dog is the best example of this. And that is that our brains, when they get under stress a lot, and I don't know how that happened with my dog in particular, but his stress response system becomes overly responsive. If he's outside of our apartment, he reacts really quickly. And so anything that we can do to help families to build a home that is nurturing, where the parents work together well as a team, and where they play together well as a team. Actually, it's really fascinating. I was working this morning on my focused family formula class and putting together some of the content that's coming up, and really thinking about how a key indicator of children's attention span, one thing that has been shown to influence it is parents who play the same game together. Kids want to play and engage for longer periods of time. So as we think about right now with so many people sheltering in place and having to struggle with this working from home, and how can we help kids to have a longer attention span to play more independently, because we have so many things that we're often balancing. And one of the things that helps actually is that when we are playing together, when parents sing the same song together or play the same game, then the child wants to participate for longer periods of time because everybody's doing it. And so that's one thing that can be really helpful.
Okay, so have you found that the COVID-19 virus has made it even more stressful for families to navigate right now?
It's been interesting because I've been doing some market research about families managing time, and for some families it has definitely increased stress levels. Other families have told me that, they used to have a 2-hour each way commute, and now they're working from home, and so the time savings of not commuting back and forth all the time has actually reduced some of the stress in that particular way, at least. So I've definitely heard a lot about parents struggling with helping kids with distance learning, with the struggles with chores and the lack of routine, because our lives and our routines have gotten so thrown off. And I know in my own life, the routines have been thrown off multiple times over the last few months. And we really thrive when we think about resilience. Another thing that helps us to build resilience is when we face stressors, but they're more predictable, or when we can find some sense of routine and security in the midst of this stressor, that helps us grow by being stressed, but then not so stressed. The predictability and the routines can help us to gain a sense of control and to gain a sense of calmness that can help so that the stressors actually build resilience in us rather than tearing us down. So I think a huge thing is thinking about how do we recreate and continue to recreate some of those routines so that they're flexible, But I think one challenge of COVID has been that our routines have just gotten all thrown off.
Yeah.
And so
I think they have, yeah. Okay, well, let's, before we talk about the number of services that you offer through Little Elf Family Services, one of the things that you put on your website about your background is that when you and your husband lost a son to an energy disorder at 17 months of age, you said, we learned the value and the challenges of strong family relationships. For anybody who's going through that kind of a traumatic experience, what kind of quick counsel can you give them?
for going through that, I think one thing in the early months of having a new baby, regardless of how traumatic it is, the Gottman Institute and others have found that 2/3 of new couples, of new parents, I should say, experience significant increases in hostility just with the birth of any baby. 2/3 of couples experience significant hostility. And so some of the things are just, simple things like there's an acronym DEAR, drink some water, eat something nutritious, exercise, even if that just means walking down the block and back, and rest to take care of yourself, I think are huge. And little things like touch routines that build in positives, because we know that the ratio of positive interactions to negative is really huge, and that in a crisis situation, in a new family situation, can be really challenging. And so little touch routines to massage your partner, if that's something that you enjoy, to, one thing that has come out of this for my husband and I is that in the morning, we have a daily breakfast together that gives us a chance to check in on what we expect to happen in the day. And so that at the end of the day, we can ask an intelligent question about how it went. And then at the end of our breakfast date, we have a dance together. And so finding ways to create those types of rituals that just promote little bits of connection can help us to get through the challenges, whether it's a new birth and struggling to adapt to life with a new family member. In any time when life gets challenging, those little rituals of connection, and then also being aware of particularly the idea when challenges come up, are we criticizing the person or are we criticizing the behavior? Because both the Gottman Institute and Brene Brown talk about the idea of that it's okay and it's healthy to say this behavior is not okay. Brene Brown would call that guilt when we talk about ourselves, for example. But it's not okay and it's not healthy in our relationships to criticize the other person's character or to criticize our own character. Brene Brown would call that shame. So on the positive side, we want to create rituals of connection, ways to create predictability, things like a daily dance, a daily family dance, ways that massaging each other, massaging our kids, massaging our partner. And then on the negative side, thinking about how can we express our needs in a way that's respectful and express our needs regularly so that they don't build up and then explode in a negative way.
All right, well, we're going to do this. We're going to take a time out, then we're going to continue our conversation here today with Lara Elfstrand of Little Elf Family Services. She's a founder and principal of that, and we're going to spell out a few more of the special services that she offers when we continue on Moving People Forward in just a moment.
God is our safe place and our strength. He is always our help when we are in trouble. This word of God in Psalm 46:1 says it all. God is our safe place. He is our strength. He is our help when we are in trouble. Whenever and wherever we are invited, nationally or internationally, Lutheran Church Charity's mission is to bring the mercy, compassion, presence, and proclamation of Jesus Christ to those who are suffering and in need. LCC is a ministry of presence, to be present with Jesus, to lift up people in times of joy and sorrow, in prayer, and by passing through donations of dollar per dollar to those in need. Through our canine ministries, we respond and deploy with boots on the ground and paws within 24 hours, often sooner, of any crisis or disaster situation we're invited into. Our LCC disaster response teams continue our support, both financially and with our dedicated volunteers, for those communities during their long-term recovery and efforts, which can be years. Disaster response teams also train volunteers through our alert training to equip volunteers to respond to the various types of disasters. LCC's human care ministries work through our churches and pastors to provide financial and in-kind donations, people resources, and emotional and spiritual care. We have strong partnerships with churches and Christian ministries across the U.S. and internationally. You see, for us, the bottom line is making a difference by being present. For people who are suffering and in need with that mercy, compassion, presence of Jesus Christ. Thank you again for allowing us the privilege to stand alongside and serve others. Jesus and your partnership make that possible to touch thousands of lives.
This is Moving People Forward. I'm Mark Elfstrand. My guest is Lara Elfstrand, who's the founder and principal of Little Elf Family Services, offering resources to help build a strong, resilient family that stands the test of time. All right, so your vision statement, I checked it out on the website. It says to reduce divorce, community violence, and the impacts of learning disabilities by building, again, these strong families that make our world a little safer, kinder place to live. That sounds pretty difficult in an age of people's protests and everything else that is going on. But that's a big challenge for someone in the line of work that you're doing. What are some of the key factors that help you develop this in the relationships?
Yeah, I think some of it is, like I was saying, thinking about how do we express our needs regularly and respectfully? How do we communicate guilt instead of shame? How do we say criticize behavior and say, hey, this behavior is not okay, while saying you're okay as a person and I'm okay as a person, and really valuing who we are as people while saying that, not all behavior is okay. I think it's so relevant right now. And just thinking about how do we also find ways to calm ourselves, and what are the things in our lives, for example, that make us feel happy. One of the ideas I love is Stuart Brown is a play researcher, and he talks about the idea of play being something that we enjoy so much that we lose track of time, and we feel like we enjoy it so much that we don't care what other people think of us. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of get lost in it and we go into a flow. And the interesting thing to me is that he started to learn about play because he was studying murderers and people who were going out and shooting people. And he was on a team, I think it was the Whitman trial in Texas in I believe it was the 70s.
Right, Charles Whitman, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so he found that people who do those types of things often didn't have much play as a child, and that is a key factor. So we know that thinking about how do we calm down and how do we build joy and play into our lives. Because we also know that, for example, Dan Siegel talks about that if our hand is our brain and our wrist is our brainstem, which we use to breathe, it regulates our breathing and our heart rate. And if our thumb here in the middle represents the emotion centers in the limbic system, and our fingers on the top here represent our cortex, which is what we need to solve problems. We know that when our brain is thinking clearly, then our cortex is online and everything is good. But our brain doesn't know the difference between a car that almost hit us, or our partner or our child did something that triggered us and we feel attacked and our heart starts to pound and we flip our lids. We go into fight or flight response and we can't think clearly. Our cortex goes offline and our body says, react quickly because I need to survive. And so building routines, building in ways that we calm ourselves down, that we experience joy, helps our brains to be able to bring that cortex back online so that we can be able to think and be respectful. Because if we're responding from the lower parts of our brain, our body says, survive. And so we react quickly before we have time to really think about what we're doing.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so just let's touch on a couple of services. Bringing Baby Home, you do classes for parents, new parents on this, and what's involved in that?
Yes, so Bringing Baby Home is a 12-hour class. Right now we have permission until June of 2021 to teach it online. And it is a research-based and research-tested class that has been shown to reduce hostility. It increases involvement of both parents so that it helps families to work together as a team and to play together as a team, which also has been shown to increase the child's language and cognitive scores and increase their children's attention span. Even though in the research, the studies were done, the parents took the class before the baby was born. But because in research, you can't say because. I'm saying because the parents then learned how to build a stronger team, to have more joy and more rituals of connection, and to manage conflict together. The home feels warmer, more nurturing, more calming, and children are more able to use more of their brain because the adults are using more of their brain.
Okay, the postpartum doula work that you're doing right now, that's primarily for people, I guess, that you would normally do that with in person, but now you're doing that online as well?
I can do some of both, so that mostly it's done in person, and depending on where we are in shelter in place, some of that I may be able to do like one family at a time, but then also another alternative is to do the coaching pieces online virtually. And then if a family is in person, then there could be an opportunity to support them while they're in another room. I could be in the kitchen just sanitizing bottles and doing making sure that they have something to eat, because a lot of it comes back to that deer idea of drink some water, eat something nutritious, get a little exercise and some rest. So as a postpartum doula, I feel that it's really important to educate, encourage, and empower parents to feel confident in their parenting and to help them get the rest and the nutrition that they need so that they can thrive and that their brains can think clearly, and to reduce the chances of postpartum depression, to make referrals as appropriate for lactation support and or for postpartum depression if the doula work is not enough. But the idea, some of it can be done virtually, supporting in terms of being a good listener, being an advocate, helping to recognize how things are going, to know what other supports might be needed, and to just be a listening ear and an encourager, and a person also who I'm really passionate about being a learner. So I have lots of research-based information and tools that can help to make the transition to parenthood smoother.
Okay, well, again, I'm based out of Chicago, as you know, and you're in California, and yet because of what we've been talking about, a lot of this information that you can deliver can be done remotely,
Yes.
and you're willing to reach out to parents across the country, wherever they might
Totally.
be, near the Bay Area of California. Lara is located in that area, and she'd probably be able to do something a little more extensive, maybe face-to-face with you as well. As we wrap up today, obviously people who would like to connect with you are going to need a website. What's the best way to do that?
Yes. So since I'm Lara Elfstrand, my company is Little Elf Family Services. And so my website is little-elf.org. So little-elf.org.
Okay, little-elf.org. And Lara would be happy to connect with you and tell you more about other programs that she has available as well.
Yes.
Well, thanks a
We'd love
lot
to
for
chat.
doing this with us today, so we can kind of, well, catch up with you a little bit, and hopefully you and your family can stay pretty safe in that part of California, huh?
Yes, you too.
All right. Thank you very much. And for all those who are joining us today, thanks for watching. As the sages have told us, grow in wisdom, think humbly of yourself, and love one another. And may it be so with you. Join me next time for more of Moving People Forward. I'm Mark Elfstrand.